Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me. Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. On the third day of the Hamas-Israel conflict, we present a view from the Palestinian perspective. Western newspapers, television channels, and news agencies have given us a very clear idea of how this conflict is viewed in Tel Aviv, London, and Washington. Now is your chance to find out how the Palestinian people view what's happening around them. Joining me now is a member of the Palestinian Legislative Council and General Secretary of the Palestinian National Initiative, Mustafa Barghouti. Mr. Barghouti, as I said in that introduction, I want to give our audience in India a Palestinian perspective on the Hamas-Israel conflict, which Prime Minister Netanyahu now calls a war. Israel and the West have claimed that the Hamas attack was unprovoked. So can you start by telling an Indian audience why you believe Hamas thought it was essential to act and to act now?
Well, it is very important for the people in India, the heroic people of India who struggled and fought to end the British colonialism of India and to have freedom and independence. It's very important for them to understand that our struggle is like your struggle. We are struggling against a system of Israeli settler colonial system that has put Palestinians under Israeli military occupation since 1967. This has become the longest occupation in modern history, 56 years of occupation. But we were also subjected to acts of ethnic cleansing by Israel in 1948, where 70% of the Palestinian people were displaced from their land through several massacres, no less than 52 massacres that Israeli troops committed. 520 Palestinian communities were erased from the ground, and the population of Palestine, 70% of them became refugees. It's important to understand that because 72% of the population of Gaza today, which is not a big area, it's only 140 square miles with 2.2 million people, 72% of whom are refugees who were displaced by Israel back in 1948. And they were displaced in 48, and then they were occupied again by Israel in 1967. And during the last period of time, Israel did not only consolidate the system of occupation, they've transformed it also into a system of apartheid, something that human rights organizations like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, even Israeli human rights organization like B'Tselem reported as the worst system of apartheid ever, of racial discrimination against Palestinian people. This is the background of what's going on. Gaza Strip has been under Israeli siege since 2006. More than 17 years of siege, which means Israel is controlling the airspace, controlling all the passages, controlling the sea, preventing Palestinians from having normal life. People in Gaza are in absolute and total poverty. the GDP per capita in Israel is $56,000 per capita, while in Gaza, it does not reach $1,000 per capita per year, while Palestinians in Gaza, as well as in the West Bank, have to buy products at Israeli market price. Gaza has been under occupation, like the West Bank, only in a different form of occupation. But in addition to that, Gazan people are deprived from clean water, from drinkable water, from normal amount of electricity. The 80% of the young educated people in Gaza are unemployed because of the Israeli siege. Add to that Palestinians who are sick, patients, do not have access to proper medical health care because also of the Israeli siege on Gaza. More than that, patients with cancer, half of them are not allowed to come to the West Bank for treatment, and they die without treatment in Gaza Strip. That is the reality of the situation. What happened during the last 8 months was very special because this is the main direct reason why Hamas decided to conduct its attack. The first thing was that Israeli illegal settlers in the West Bank, who are no less than 750,000, started campaigning with terrorist attacks against the Palestinian civilian population in the West Bank. During the last 8 months, the Israeli army and the Israeli settlers protected by the Israeli army killed no less than 248 Palestinians, including 40 children. One of the children who died, I knew him, was only 2.5 years old in the village of in a village of Nabi Saleh in Ramallah area. And Israel indicted nobody for all these killings. Add to that Israel declared that its goal is to liquidate the Palestinian cause through normalization with Arab countries. Netanyahu said it very clearly that he will not allow the creation of a Palestinian independent state and that the Palestinian cause does not exist. And the main issue here is to normalize with Arab countries.
Can I ask you this concept? To what extent is the Hamas attack also an attempt to stop something that you were about to talk about, the Saudi-Israeli peace deal, which it's widely believed would have put the Palestinian people and their cause on the back burner? To what extent was this an attempt to stop that happening?
No, neither Hamas nor us are against peace, even between Arab countries and Israel. What we are against is to bypass the Palestinian issue, to have peace with Arab countries at the expense of the Palestinians while keeping Israeli enslavement of the Palestinian people and while keeping Israeli occupation of Palestinian land. So we are not against peace. We are against enslavement. We are against occupation. We are against apartheid. But to add insult to injury, Mr. Netanyahu went to the United Nations, most recently spoke at the General Assembly, and showed a map of Israel. That map included the annexation of the occupied West Bank, the annexation of the occupied Gaza Strip, the annexation of occupied East Jerusalem, as well as the Syrian Golan Heights. He declared to the world his intention to completely violate international law by annexing occupied territories. This was the main reason why Palestinians found themselves obliged to struggle for their rights, obliged to resist occupation. And you cannot call people who are fighting for their freedom terrorists, while the Israeli army, which is now bombarding Gaza in the heaviest possible way, killing so far more than 510 civilians.
Is this, Mr. Barghouti, what the military commander of Hamas meant when he was widely quoted to say, enough is enough? We've taken more than we can tolerate. You have oppressed us. We have to hit back. Is that what he meant by that phrase, enough is enough?
Absolutely. Because during also something that the international media is ignoring at the moment is the fact that since 2008, Israel committed and conducted 5 wars on the population of Gaza. during which attacks, like in 2014, they killed thousands of people. More than 4,000 Palestinians were killed in 2014 by the Israeli army. I was there. I was in Gaza.
So I hear
saw
what
how
you're saying. I hear what you're saying, and from your account, it seems that awful atrocities have been perpetrated on the Palestinian people. Today,
but there is one more important
can I
point.
finish the question, sir? Today, it seems that Hamas has perpetrated awful atrocities on innocent Israelis. Children, wives, husbands, innocent civilians have been killed. Does one atrocity against you justify another atrocity against them? Does this tit for tat make a moral sense?
No, I am against killing any civilian. I'm against killing any child. But to claim that Hamas is only killing children and women is also not correct.
But
in reality, they conducted a military attack on military bases, which Israel keeps around Gaza.
But what about, sir, forgive me interrupting, but 250 young teenagers attending the Supernova Music Festival were also killed. Now, they were definitely not military targets. They were young teenagers having a nice evening listening to music, and they were killed.
They should not have been killed, and this is a huge mistake that should not have happened, and people should be accountable for that. But let me tell you, regardless of the fact that many of these young people serve in the Israeli army as well. And now, because as you know, the Israeli army is 760,000 soldiers, 560,000 of whom are these civilians who are called from time to time to conduct wars on the Palestinians. And now they are calling 350,000 of those people, young people, to join the army and attack the Palestinians. But regardless of that, when a civilian is a civilian, he should not be attacked.
You said something very important, Mr. Barghouti, and I'm repeating it for the audience. Even though you believe you and your people are under attack and have been under attack by Israel for 75 years, nonetheless, you said categorically that the killing of 250 innocent young men and women at the Supernova Festival was a mistake. And you said those who did it must be made accountable. You mean that and stand by that?
Yeah, I agree. Anybody who kills a civilian should be accountable. And that should be applied to Israel. But unfortunately, you remember the case of Shireen Abu Akleh, a Palestinian most peaceful journalist. She was Palestinian, she was Christian, she was American also because she had American citizenship, and she was shot to death by an Israeli sniper. Up till this moment, no real investigation was done and nobody was indicted, exactly like the case of 52 other Palestinian journalists who were also killed by the Israeli army.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that this justifies killing Israeli civilians. No civilian ever should be killed. I don't want even military people to be killed if we have real peace. But that cannot happen as long as we are enslaved by a system of oppression, a system of occupation, and a system of apartheid. Let me tell you one personal experience. It might be useful for your audience to know that. I am a medical doctor by education and by practice. In 1996, I've just finished postgraduate studies at Stanford University in the United States. And I was in Ramallah in Palestine when I was called to lead a medical team because there were clashes with the Israeli army and Palestinians were injured and killed. I was called to help a person who was shot on the 5th floor in a building. I was in my white coat, and while I was trying to stop the bleeding of that man, an Israeli sniper saw me and shot me twice with live ammunition. I still carry in my back and shoulder 37 shrapnels of that attack. My case was reported on CNN TV. Nobody was indicted, nobody was investigated. And since then, we've lost thousands and thousands of Palestinians killed by Israel. You know, their number since 1948 is no less than 100,000 Palestinians killed, in addition to 1 million Palestinians imprisoned by Israel.
Mr. Barghouti, you've given us the background in a way very fulsomely so an Indian audience can understand the Palestinian perspective. As I said in the introduction, we are very well aware of the Israeli and the Western perspective. I wanted you to have the time and detail to explain the Palestinian perspective. I didn't want to shortchange you and interrupt you. Now, let me ask you, for shorter answers, what is the situation like in Gaza as we speak? I know that the area was heavily bombed last night. I know that Israel has cut off electricity, food, and fuel supplies. So, what are conditions like for ordinary poor people in Gaza, who you said have a per capita income of just $1,000 compared to some 54 or 5 in Israel?
Well, if the world cares about civilians, they should also care about Palestinian civilians. And they cannot say because Hamas conducted an attack that it is justified to kill Palestinian civilians. At this very moment, 2.2 million Palestinians in Gaza Strip are subjected to acts of war crimes and collective punishment. Collective punishment in the sense of cutting water, electricity, supplies of products, making their life impossible, but also attacked continuously by Israeli airplanes, F-16 and F-35 jet fighters. We Palestinians have nothing to protect ourselves with. We don't have anti-aircraft missiles. We don't have airplanes. We don't have even airports. What we are seeing today is 2.2 million people subjected to horrifying attacks by the Israeli airstrikes. Till this moment, 510 people were killed, including more than 100 children, including more than 70 women. And the images that are coming from Gaza are shocking. Israel has been destroying houses one after the other. They have brought down to the ground more than 11 high-rise buildings with hundreds of apartments and with many, many people killed and injured.
Okay.
Even just a few minutes ago, I saw a video of the Israeli army attacking an ambulance, carrying injured people, killing 7 people who were in that ambulance, and injuring the driver and the doctor who were in the ambulance. Now, as you can see here, it is a horrible situation now, but the more dangerous thing didn't happen yet. Let me alert you. Netanyahu said the people of Gaza should leave Gaza now. Where should they go? They are under siege. They have no place to go. He's trying to justify, in my opinion, terrible massacres. And his spokesperson, the military spokesperson of Israel, I heard them myself speaking to international media, saying that the world should not now blame us for the horrible images they will see in Gaza. So these guys purposefully are planning and declaring massacres against the population of Gaza, massacres against the people of Gaza, and they would claim that the fact that they are killing Palestinians is the responsibility of Palestinians. This is totally unacceptable. And by the way, if Netanyahu cares about the Israeli prisoners of war, he would not conduct these attacks because they also could be killed by Israeli airstrikes.
Well, let me ask you about that specifically. Israel has confirmed that you have 100 hostages, both civilian and soldiers. Other press reports say you have dozens. Whatever the number, can you assure me that they are safe and that they will not be killed in revenge for any action that Israel takes? Will you in some way guarantee their safety? Because now that Israel's declared war, they are technically prisoners of war, and under the Geneva Conventions, Palestine and Hamas are responsible for their safety. Can you guarantee that?
Absolutely. I am 100% sure that no Palestinian, no Hamas even people will kill prisoners of war. That is impossible. That is against our beliefs, that is against our religions, and it will never happen. But you said...
That is a guarantee. That is a guarantee you're giving me.
Yes, but Israel could kill them with their airstrikes because they could kill them with the guards that they are with. That's the biggest risk today. And by the way, let me explain that. By the way, there is a very short way now of solving the problem. Hamas has declared that they are ready to exchange all civilian prisoners now, immediately, in exchange of Palestinian women prisoners in Israeli jails. If Israel accepts, that exchange can take place now immediately.
Just to
More than
clarify,
that,
just to clarify, all 100 or whatever the number Israeli hostages or prisoners with Hamas can be exchanged for women prisoners. You said Palestinian women prisoners, not men.
No, I said all civilian prisoners from the Israeli side can be exchanged with women prisoners in in Palestine, Palestinian women in Israeli jails. But the military prisoners of war can be exchanged with all Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. That is the situation. But so immediately...
Just to clarify, it's a two-part exchange. All civilian prisoners with Hamas can be exchanged for all women prisoners in Israeli jails who are Palestinian. And secondly, all military prisoners, soldiers in Hamas custody, can be exchanged for all male Palestinian prisoners in Israel. It's a two-part exchange.
Absolutely. That is what Hamas is offering, and Qatar is trying to mediate that deal, and I hope it will succeed. And I hope this will lead to a complete and total ceasefire immediately and as soon as possible, so that no more Palestinians will be killed and no more Israelis will be killed. But let me tell you, there is something you mentioned. Israel declared war, right? War on whom? This is the first time in history that an occupying power declares war on the people they are occupying. You cannot combine war on occupied people and claim it is a simple war. Either you are oppressing occupied people or you are conducting a war with another country.
I hear what you're saying, Mr. Barghouti, but what you said before that is very important because I believe it is news. It has not emerged previously. There is a two-part exchange that has been offered. Qatar is being used as the country mediating between the two. Has Qatar already contacted the Netanyahu government, or is that still to happen?
No, I'm sure they are doing that with the help of the Egyptians as well.
And Egypt is involved as well, both Qatar and Egypt?
Absolutely.
And how soon do you expect a response from Tel Aviv?
Well, I am worried that Netanyahu doesn't care about that because he doesn't care about his people. If he cared about his people, he would not conduct these terrible attacks.
Well, forgive me, I don't mean to interrupt you, but in 2011, and I'm sure you know this more than me, Netanyahu traded, I think it was 1,027 Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails in return for one solitary Israeli soldier. So clearly, he's really prepared to do very heavily lopsided deals to secure and get back his own people. This is a window of opportunity you've opened, haven't you?
Yes, if he wants to use it. But this man now declares that he wants to eliminate Hamas completely from the grassroots.
Forgive me, that was said before you made known in public or even through Qatar and Egypt the offer of an exchange. What he said earlier, therefore, should not mean that his response to your offer of an exchange will be no. We don't know is the honest answer. We don't know his answer as yet. Isn't that true?
It is true, and the ball is on his side. If he wants, he can release the prisoners immediately. Yeah.
What is the response in the West Bank to what has been happening in Gaza? According to the Western press, people in the West Bank are watching and waiting, but they've not taken any action. What's your sense of the response in the West Bank?
Well, maybe Palestinians are not taking actions, but Israelis do. Since yesterday, Israeli army killed 19 more Palestinians in the West Bank. Two here in Ramallah.
My question, sir, was, are you getting support from Palestinians in the West Bank for what is happening to Palestinians in Gaza? That was my question.
We are all Palestinians. Of course, Palestinians are in solidarity with their people in Gaza, especially now that they see the atrocities of Israeli bombardment of Gaza. And not only here, but Palestinians everywhere are in solidarity with the people of Gaza now that are being slaughtered by Israeli army forces. But also, not only those, I think the peoples of the Arab world, all in the whole of the Arab world, are now mad and angry about what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people.
Well, let me take you up on that. The most important leader in the Arab world is Crown Prince Mohammed of Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Foreign Ministry has called for expediting efforts for a two-nation solution. But so far, Saudi Arabia hasn't specifically said anything about supporting the Palestinian people and their struggle. They've talked about a two-nation expediting process, but there's been no statement from Saudi Arabia or Prince Mohammed expressing concern, solidarity for the Palestinian people. Does that distinction, that difference slightly worry you?
I think if that did not happen, it will happen. They cannot ignore the situation. And eventually, these images of these massacres that Israel is conducting in Gaza will force all the Arab governments to take a stand. But nevertheless, we know that Saudis are the custodians of the Arab Initiative, Arab Peace Initiative, which says that no normalization will take place without Israel ending the occupation of the occupied territories and allowing Palestinians to have an independent state.
Sir, but as we discussed earlier, the possibility of a Saudi-Israeli peace deal, which Washington was negotiating, clearly suggested that Saudi Arabia was willing to make peace and forget about the Palestinian people. That is why the silence, or the rather tepid response from Saudi Arabia today, is a matter of concern for you.
No, this is what you say, but Saudis never said that. And up till now, there are big obstacles to having that kind of agreement with Israel. And I think it will be absolutely difficult for Saudis or anybody else to surpass the Palestinian issue, especially now with all these massacres that are taking place by Israel in Gaza.
There's a lot of speculation.
We have to stop here because
Two questions, sir. Two questions and I'll be finished. There's a lot of speculation in the West about the nature of support Hamas has received from Iran. President Raisi on Sunday said he supported the Palestinian right to self-defense and said Israel must be held accountable. But beyond verbal support, beyond rhetoric, has Tehran actually been giving other sort of support to Hamas, either weapons or training or something else?
I think they did, yes. And that's one country that is supporting Palestinians. On the other hand, Israel is receiving all kinds of military equipment from the United States, from all European countries. Even Israel has become an exporter of military equipment to the other countries of the world. They have a mighty.
But you're accepting.
Let me explain. They have a mighty army. They have 200 nuclear heads. They don't allow inspection of their nuclear power. And they are allowed to do that by the United States.
Absolutely. But you began your answer, sir. But you began your answer by accepting that Iran has provided arms and training to Hamas. That you have accepted.
I don't have information about that, but I expect it has happened. And there is nothing wrong with Palestinians trying to receive support from other countries when Israel is receiving all that support from so many other countries.
My last question, Mr. Barghouti, and it's to do with my country and my Prime Minister. The Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, was one of the first to tweet his solidarity with Israel and to condemn the Hamas attack as terrorism. This is a marked shift from India's traditional support for the Palestinian cause. How do you, as a member of the Palestinian Legislative Council, respond to this?
We feel sorry that Mr. Modi made such a statement. Of course, he has the right to express his opinion any way he wants. But I think the traditional position of India, the one that was adopted by Mahatma Gandhi, by Nehru, by Indira Gandhi, and by so many other leaders of India, has always been supporting the Palestinian right of freedom and supporting the Palestinian right to end illegal Israeli settler colonial occupation of Palestine. And I dare to think that the majority of the Indian people are supporting the rights of the Palestinian people. I think it is not acceptable to claim that the people who are under occupation, under oppression, under a system of apartheid, that Israel is trying to enslave forever, do not have the right to defend themselves as well, and do not have the right to struggle for their freedom.
So would I be right in saying that you're upset and you feel hurt by the way Mr. Modi has expressed solidarity for the Israeli side whilst calling the Hamas attack terrorism? That has hurt and upset you.
We are hurt not only by this, but we are hurt by many positions of many world leaders who are not ready to see the reality objectively. And what we want them to do is to support international law. We don't want them to be biased to us. We want them to be biased to the international law. We want them to be biased to human rights. We want them to support what human rights organizations are saying everywhere in the world, including Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and even Israeli human rights organization, B'Tselem. They should support the justice. And Palestinians today are struggling not only for freedom, but for the justice they've been deprived from during the last 100 years, mainly because of what the British colonialism initiated through Balfour Declaration.
Mr. Barghouti, I just want to confirm something you said before I thank you and wish you goodbye. You said something very important, that Hamas has offered a two-part trade deal. I won't go into the details because we've already made it explicit, that Qatar and Egypt are mediating. You're awaiting a response from the Netanyahu government. This suggests that if you get a response agreeing to the offer of the trade deal of prisoners that you suggested, we could have this problem finished within 24 or 36 hours.
Absolutely, 100%.
Mr. Barghouti, thank you very much indeed. Stay safe. Take care.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch The Interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.